I'm going to explain why you never go mud wrestling with a pig. I'll have more in just a second. Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney, retired. This is a trial channel. No legal advice is given, and everything that I say pretty much is my opinion unless stated otherwise. The Kouri Richins case out of Utah centers on a wife accused of killing her husband, Eric Richins, in March of 2022 by allegedly giving him a fentanyl-laced drink, specifically a Moscow Mule. Prosecutors say the motive was financial, life insurance money, debt, and control of his estate, and they also allege an earlier poisoning attempt. After his death, Richins wrote a children's book about grief, then was later charged with aggravated murder and multiple fraud counts. She has pleaded not guilty, and the trial is now underway. Much of the evidence is already in, but additional witnesses seem to be focusing now on the financial motives. Before we go there, first let's review. Three things came out of the direct testimony yesterday that matter. First, the investigator was hired by Eric Richins' family, not the police, and he said he conducted an independent investigation. Second, when he analyzed Kouri Richins' phone records, one contact stood out: a woman with a criminal history involving drugs. And third, he said the investigation started with two possible explanations: accidental overdose or murder, and his entire investigation was about testing those two hypotheses. The most damaging moment in that testimony was when the investigator explained that he found, after analyzing Kouri Richins' phone records, that one contact stood out. And it stood out because there were hundreds of messages. When he looked into that person's background, he testified that it was immediately apparent she had a criminal history involving drug use and possible drug sales. At that point, he notified law enforcement. Now, that's pretty much the sum of a very long direct examination. I've left large parts of it out, but those were the parts that were important to me. Then came the cross, and now we're back to talking about that pig and mud wrestling. There are some aphorisms in life that are worth remembering. I've always liked the idea that you should never try to teach a pig to sing because it wastes your time and annoys the pig. But my favorite of those was given to me by my former boss, and he said, "You never go mud wrestling with a pig because nobody wins, but the pig enjoys it." I was talking about a problem I had with another lawyer and why the guy he wouldn't cooperate at all. And he said, "Well, never go mud wrestling with a pig. Nobody wins, but the pig enjoys it." And I realized in that context, yeah, this guy is enjoying messing with me, so I'm going to act like it doesn't bother me. And eventually it stopped. So that all came back to me yesterday after watching the cross-examination of the Richins family private investigator. Now, I'm using this thing as a metaphor, not in the sense that I'm in some way calling Kathy Nestor a pig, because I'm not. In fact, in this metaphor, the pig is the private investigator. And again, I'm not calling him a literal pig or a figurative pig or using it to demean him. Rather, I am describing the cross-examination. There is always a danger when you cross-examine someone who's been down that road hundreds of times before. During his cross-examination, he testified he's been involved in thousands of divorce cases. If you think criminal defense attorneys can be nasty fellows, you haven't seen anything till you've seen divorce attorneys go after cheating spouses and their accomplices. Private investigators are used extensively, and as a result, they are cross-examined extensively. And because of that, they're pretty much used to getting treated like a doormat inside a house outside a muddy yard. He has seen every skeevy trick a lawyer can pull. He's had his work questioned. He can spot a mischaracterization a mile away. And he has no problem putting lawyers in their place. So while Nestor is mud wrestling, the smile on his face gives away the fact that he's having a blast doing this. Now, I'm not going to show you the entire cross-examination. I would not do that to you. I like you guys. But I am going to put out a couple of points here that I think are worthy of mention because the effect on the jury is going to be pronounced. Let's take a look at those now.
And you've never been law enforcement in your whole life, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the rules and ethics and expected practices of private investigators are significantly different, would you agree with me, than those that apply to licensed law enforcement?
I don't know that I would agree with that in every circumstance. A private investigator, when he is hired by a lawyer, is bound to all the ethics that that lawyer is bound to.
Okay.
So,
but for example, you don't have to go get a warrant to go look at a house.
Well, right, that's the state action distinction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not a state actor.
Right.
I've never been a state actor.
Right.
I will never be a state actor.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to go search a house for 6 straight days and look at thousands of documents, you don't need to get a judge to give you permission to do that, right?
No, I got the permission of Kouri's lawyers who represented her to do that.
You know those videos that you see from time to time if you scroll through the shorts section or any of that, where somebody's looking at their phone, they're walking along, and they trip and fall into a water fountain, right? I mean, that's sort of what exactly happened here. You're not bound by the same ethics. And then he pops out and says, yeah, no, I'm bound by your ethics. And she should have known that. And why she didn't know that, I have no idea. But she thought she was going to, impeach him on the idea that he didn't have any ethics. And he's like, no, I am responsible to the people that who hired me, and I have to follow their ethics. And then, well, you didn't need to go get a warrant. No, I got it permission from your client's lawyers. Holy cow. That to me just, it illustrates either bad preparation in this case or an unwillingness to accept fact that this guy is a great private investigator. He unearthed a lot of stuff, even that the cops didn't find. And as a result, that's why this prosecution's going on. He's kind of a key witness in that regard. But she should have known better than to ask a question that she didn't know the answer to, or worse, that she thought she knew the answer to, but didn't.
Also, you mentioned earlier that you didn't take, other than the vital records and the attorney-client privileged records, that you didn't take anything else out of the home. That's not entirely true. You also took a safe out of the house?
Yeah, I described that by report, but that house, that safe was returned.
Okay. So you went into the house with your own key, correct?
Yes.
You went into the family, I believe is in the master closet, is that right? Where was it?
Yes.
You picked it up, took it out of the house, and put it in your Tesla.
Yes, I believe I did that at the request of Clint Benson.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you drove it to a locksmith.
I did.
And you busted into the safe.
I did not bust into the safe.
Well, he did.
He bumped. He used a technique called bumping. It's the movement of the door and the frame of the safe that allows it to come open.
Okay. But you didn't have a combination.
I don't know if that was a combination. I thought there was a key to that one.
It was forced open with a hammer, right?
I think it was a rubber mallet, and it was dropped onto the ground.
Okay.
I think that's what eventually got it opened, was that it was dropped onto a flat surface.
And when you were doing that, there's no law enforcement there, correct?
I don't need law enforcement to babysit me.
Okay.
Don't you just get the sense this guy is having the time of his life? He's up there making her stumble over her words, and I like that her response was like, okay. Yeah, well, I think she realized that she blew another opportunity, and she keeps mischaracterizing things, right? She says, you busted into the safe. No, I didn't bust into the safe. I took it to a locksmith, basically a safe cracker, and he managed to get it open without a key. and he describes what he did. But that's not busting into the safe. And I thought it was pretty well handled there by him. And then there at the end, that little smirk that he gave her was just classic, I thought. Here's another thing to watch for in these next clips. She purposefully mischaracterizes things, and he calls her on it. Now, most witnesses won't do this. In fact, in cross-examination, people are usually so eager to get off that stand that they'll buy any characterization that you throw out there. And she knows that because she's cross-examined witnesses before, and he knows it because he's not going to let her get by with it. Let's watch a few of these.
You mentioned the police had executed a search that day before they released it to you, right?
Yes.
And do you know how many times prior to that the police had searched that house?
No.
Okay. And then you've also testified here, I think very honestly, that on repeated occasions you notified the police, hey, there's something you missed. You might want to go back to the house and find it again.
I mean, I'm not going to adopt your characterization,
Okay.
but it is true that I called them back to that house when I discovered something that I thought was evidentiary.
How many times?
Oh, I don't know, 4, 5.
So on at least 4 to 5 occasions,
Yeah.
you found things the police had missed.
Yeah, oh, that's been my experience throughout my career.
And you
The
told
police
them,
never
sorry.
get everything, ever.
Okay, that was a little self-aggrandizing, I have to admit, but you noticed she characterizes it one way as calling him up and saying, hey, I found something you missed. And he says, I'm not going to adopt that characterization, but I pointed out evidentiary value in certain things that I found. So again, she mischaracterized it, and then he corrected her on it, and the jury sees every one of these. Every time she does this and he catches her and corrects her, the jury sees that she's not playing straight with him. And that was, I think this was certainly the least of them, but there are more. Let's watch.
So you could go in without a warrant, find something, call them, tell them to get a warrant, and they'd come get it.
I think that's an oversimplification and a vilification. I had permission to enter those premises. I had every right to be there. I didn't need a warrant. I'm not a state actor. I have the permission of the property owner. So I don't agree with your characterization.
Kathy Nestor seems absolutely committed to the idea of destroying Eric Richins' reputation after death. And I point this out because there were all kinds of different questions that were asked about the messages that he might have sent. But anybody who knows how men behave when men talk to men, they know that every now and again you say things that are probably not safe for work, probably not the kind of stuff you'd want your pastor to hear, and probably not the kind of stuff you'd say in polite society, but they're your friends. So you can jab them every now and then, and they jab right back because that's what friends do. And what she's already asked questions about an affair, and she keeps asking questions about the THC gummies. Well, okay, Kathy, but maybe you ought to look at a calendar. It's 2026. Nobody cares about that anymore. And, it's not 1950s reefer madness kind of stuff. It is something that people do mostly to relax. Do I do it? No, I don't think it's a good idea. There are studies that link it to long-term psychotic effects, not necessarily THC gummies, but marijuana. And so I just think it's dangerous, and I try not to put anything into my body that the doctor didn't prescribe. So I'm looking at this, and this exchange where she has two fellows exchanging barbs back and forth. Watch the way that she characterizes it. And again, he just has a ball in tearing her apart by answering her question in the way that It absolutely should have been answered. Watch this. This is great.
Do you recall looking at that text?
I do.
You've seen this one?
I believe I have. It's a joke.
It's a joke?
It is. It appears to me to be a joke.
Did you see the text around this text?
I did.
So you have reviewed the text between Eric and Bryce?
I don't know. I don't know that this is a text from Bryce. I have no idea. This does not identify Bryce.
So now
anybody.
Now that you have your memory refreshed, do you remember seeing this text between Eric and another individual saying that Kouri and I are starting an open relationship tonight? Right?
It says, Kouri and I are starting an open relationship tonight, so I told her I'm taking you home.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You left that out of your report.
No. This would be part of my report.
Did you see sexting between Bryce and Eric when you looked at their texts?
I don't recall that, no.
Katie?
And is this sexting? I don't know what you mean.
No, I'm not talking about this one. I'm talking about other ones.
All right. I don't recall. I'm talking about many hundreds of thousands of messages in this case. I can't recall them all.
Can I show you this other text right here and see if this refreshes your memory? Do you remember seeing a whole bunch of emails like this or texts like this between Eric and Bryce?
Honestly, no, I don't remember. Like I say, there were hundreds of thousands of messages in this case. I don't remember even 1% of them. As I look at this, it just makes me laugh. It doesn't appear to be serious.
So how many of these joke sextings did you review that Eric did?
I don't understand this to be sexting. I think you're wrong about that. I resist your characterization. These are two friends joking with each other. That's what I'm reading here.
So on redirect, Bloodworth cleans that all up and explains, that this was just friends being friends and kind of playing with one another back and forth. And so at the end of this, it's pretty clear to me that the direct examination did some damage, but she continues to do damage in the cross-examination, either because she purposefully doesn't understand the context or because what she really is trying to do is tar Eric with the brush of some kind of deviant, and as a result, basically saying he's a druggie and all of that, when there is absolutely no evidence to support it. The jury sees when a lawyer isn't playing fair, and juries don't like that. When you put words in somebody's mouth and they spit them right back out, as this guy has done numerous times in his cross, you damage your own credibility. There are times when you need to sit down and shut up. And I think that ought to be, maybe that could be the theme for my entire postscript when I do this trial postscript. She should have spent a lot more time sitting and a lot less time talking. And today's a good example of that. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. And especially if you have subscribed. That means a lot to me. If you have the opportunity today, try to do just one kind thing to help somebody else. Doesn't have to be a big thing. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke, get them a cup of coffee, hold open a door for somebody struggling with a package, or even better, overtip your waitress or waiter if you eat out. Those kinds of things make their day brighter, and you may find yourself noticing other people when they do kind things for you. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? I'm going to drop my email address up here in the event you have a comment or some suggestions to make. I'd appreciate it if you'd send them to me. Always enjoy getting something that says, video request because, again, that's how I keep making videos. Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing up in the little boxes right up there.